The moment fear strikes is unlike anything else. It doesn't announce itself politely. It doesn't give you a chance to step back or prepare at the last second. It hits, sudden and sharp, like a jolt of electricity running through your body, and in that instant, your mind is flooded with every possible consequence, every what if, every memory of past failures and missteps. The seconds stretch, morphing into minutes, though you know in reality it may only be a handful of moments. Your heart pounds in a way that feels as if it could break your chest. The air feels heavier, as if gravity itself has doubled its weight, pressing down on your shoulders. Your muscles tense automatically, almost in rebellion against the very thing you need to do, and every instinct in your body screams one simple message: stop. But you can't stop. The fear has you in its grip, yet it's precisely this grip that defines the moment. You become acutely aware of every sensation. Your palms are sweaty, your stomach churns, your legs feel like they could buckle under you at any second. Your eyes dart around, catching every detail, every movement in the space you occupy, every shadow or sound amplified in your hyper-awareness. Time slows down, though it is still moving forward relentlessly, ticking away the moments you can never get back. In these moments, you realize that fear is not just a feeling. It is a presence, a force that sits beside you, watching, testing, weighing your response. Thoughts race through your mind, often chaotic, almost uncontrollable. You think about failure and the humiliation that might follow. You think about the effort that got you here, the training, the practice, and whether it will be enough. You consider the people watching, even if the room is empty. You imagine the regret of backing down, of letting fear win. You analyze every possible outcome, from the most likely to the wildly improbable, each one feeding the next wave of adrenaline. The rational part of your brain tries to intervene, reminding you of preparation, of skill, of experience. But the emotional part, raw, primal, instinctual, overshadows reason, whispering doubts, magnifying insecurities, and making everything feel urgent, immediate, and terrifying. The physical reaction is just as consuming. Your breathing becomes shallow and uneven. You feel your heartbeat in your throat, in your ears, in every nerve ending that seems suddenly alive. Your vision narrows, a tunnel forming around the object of your fear, and at the same time, you notice details you've never noticed before: the texture of a wall, the flicker of a light, the slight movements in the room. Even your thoughts seem to sharpen, every decision weighted as though it could tip the balance between success and failure. Your body begins to betray you in small ways: a trembling hand, a slight sweat beating at your forehead, reminders that fear is not just mental but a total body experience. And yet, within that intensity lies clarity. The fear, as overwhelming as it is, also forces focus. It draws a line in the sand, what you can control and what you cannot. Every training exercise, every repetition, every practice scenario you've endured begins to rise to the surface of your mind, guiding your actions despite the panic. The mind, when pushed to the edge, begins to sort through the noise, prioritizing what matters. Muscle memory kicks in. Decisions become faster, movements more precise. Actions that once seemed impossible under normal circumstances now happen almost automatically, driven by years of preparation that you barely even notice in the moment. Fear, when it strikes with full intensity, strips life down to its most essential elements. There is no distraction, no extraneous thought. You are confronted with the raw reality of the situation, of yourself, and of the challenge before you. It is brutal, humbling, and terrifying, yet there is an undeniable beauty in the honesty of it. In that moment, there is nowhere to hide, no safety net to rely on, no illusions about capability or courage. You are fully present, fully aware, fully alive, and the sheer intensity of that awareness is what makes the moment unforgettable. It is during these 7 minutes that the mind and body are tested in ways that can never be replicated in training alone. Each second is a negotiation, a battle between instinct and reason, between panic and discipline, between surrender and perseverance. You feel the weight of every choice, every movement, every breath, and the outcome of those moments seems disproportionately important compared to anything else you've experienced. The world narrows, focusing entirely on the immediate challenge, the singular task at hand, until the surrounding noise, past regrets, future anxieties, the trivialities of daily life, falls away entirely. Even though the fear is consuming, there is an awareness that it is temporary. That knowledge alone can sharpen focus, even in the chaos of adrenaline and panic. You become both participant and observer, feeling the fear, acknowledging it, and yet refusing to be defined by it. Every second is a test of control, of mental fortitude, of the ability to act under pressure, and the intensity is such that it etches itself into memory in vivid detail. The smell of the room, the sound of your own breathing, the weight of your body, the pounding of your heart. All of it becomes permanently intertwined with that moment, a sensory imprint that can never be erased. The years of preparation behind those 7 minutes are invisible to anyone watching from the outside, but they are the foundation on which every second of action rests. What looks like instinct, courage, or effortless performance is actually the result of countless hours, days, and years spent honing skills, repeating routines, and confronting small failures over and over until they become lessons etched into the mind and body. Preparation is not glamorous. It does not happen in dramatic bursts. It is quiet, relentless, and often lonely. It is waking up before dawn to run when your body wants to sleep, staying late to practice when every muscle aches, and repeating exercises that challenge you just enough to break you down, then build you back up stronger. It is in these countless repetitions that the mind and body learn to work together, learning the rhythm of precision, the language of movement, the subtle cues that signal what comes next. Every year of training is layered with deliberate effort. There are moments of doubt, when progress feels invisible and the goal seems impossibly distant. But those moments are as much a part of the preparation as success. They teach resilience and persistence. They teach you how to carry yourself when nothing seems to go right, how to push forward when every instinct tells you to stop. Even the mistakes, the missteps, the failures are carefully cataloged by the mind. Each error becomes a lesson, each setback a reminder of what must be refined, and over time, the accumulation of these lessons creates an almost unspoken confidence that emerges in the face of fear. The work is never flashy, and there is rarely recognition along the way, but without it, the 7 minutes of fear cannot be survived. Preparation is as much mental as it is physical. The body can be trained to react, to endure, to perform, but the mind is what ultimately carries you through. Years of conditioning the mind to remain calm under pressure, to assess risk accurately, to focus on the task at hand despite the chaos surrounding it, are essential. Mental preparation is built through visualization, repetition, and deliberate exposure to controlled stress. It is learning to feel the racing heart and not panic, to notice the sweat on your hands without letting it dictate your choices, to observe the fear without surrendering to it. Each visualization, each rehearsal, each scenario practiced over and over trains the mind to expect the unexpected, to remain flexible, and to trust the skills you have built over years of effort. The long road of preparation also builds character. It tests patience and humility, forcing acknowledgement of limits while constantly pushing against them. It requires prioritization, making choices about what matters most, and discipline, enforcing consistency in the small, seemingly insignificant actions that compound over time. Every repetition, every early morning, every moment of discomfort contributes to a sense of preparedness that cannot be rushed. The years of preparation transform not only skill but mindset, shaping how you respond to challenges both in practice and when the real test arrives. Preparation is rarely linear. There are plateaus where progress seems stalled, setbacks that threaten to undo weeks of work, and moments of frustration that test resolve. But it is in navigating these periods that endurance is forged. the ability to continue despite stagnation, to maintain focus even when the outcome is uncertain, and to keep training when recognition is absent, all contribute to a readiness that only emerges after sustained effort. It is a combination of skill, strategy, and mental toughness cultivated over a long arc of dedication. Training also builds an intimate knowledge of oneself. You learn your strengths and weaknesses, the precise limits of endurance, the conditions under which you thrive or falter. You learn how your body responds to stress, how your mind reacts to pressure, and how to manage both in tandem. The awareness gained from years of practice is a quiet kind of power, allowing you to anticipate challenges, mitigate risk, and make decisions almost instinctively. That knowledge does not eliminate fear, but it transforms fear into a tool, a signal rather than an obstacle, because you have confronted it countless times in smaller, controlled ways. The years of preparation culminate in confidence, not arrogance. It is the assurance that you have done the work, that you have practiced every scenario you could anticipate, and that you have endured enough failure and challenge to handle the intensity of the moment. This confidence is not loud or brash. It is steady, a quiet backbone that carries you through when fear strikes. It is the knowledge that when the 7 minutes arrive, every motion, every decision, and every breath is supported by a lifetime of effort that has taught you how to respond, how to endure, and how to prevail. Ultimately, preparation is what bridges the gap between fear and action. Without it, moments of high stakes are paralyzing, raw terror becomes insurmountable, and instinct alone cannot carry you. With it, fear becomes a measure of readiness, and the years spent training transform into a foundation that makes the impossible possible. It is this hidden journey, unseen and often unappreciated, that makes the brief but intense moments of fear navigable and allows a lifetime of training to shine through in just 7 minutes. Training the body versus training the mind is one of the most overlooked distinctions in any high-stakes endeavor. On the surface, physical preparation seems obvious. You lift, you run, you drill, you condition. The body responds in predictable ways to repetition and stress. Muscles strengthen, reflexes sharpen, endurance improves, and skills become more precise. You can see it in yourself, in numbers, in performance metrics, in the way movement becomes smoother, faster, more controlled. The body's response is tangible, measurable, and often celebrated. There is a sense of satisfaction in knowing that your effort translates directly into capability, that the sweat poured into training yields visible progress. Yet the body alone is insufficient, because every minute of performance under pressure is dictated not just by muscles and reflexes, but by the mind that controls them. Mental training is subtle, insidious, and far more difficult to quantify. While the body reacts to external stimuli, the mind interprets those reactions, adds layers of context, and imposes either calm or chaos. It is the mind that decides whether fear freezes you or fuels you, whether pain becomes an obstacle or a signal. Training the mind involves learning to operate under stress, to manage the physiological reactions that come with fear, to stay present when every instinct screams for retreat. It involves developing focus so sharp that distractions fade into irrelevance, and self-awareness so acute that you recognize panic before it overwhelms your judgment. Mental training is built through visualization, controlled exposure to stress, deliberate practice of decision-making under duress, and repeated reflection on mistakes. It is often invisible, quietly shaping your ability to act when the pressure is on, long before anyone sees the results. The tension between physical and mental training becomes stark in high-stakes moments. The body may be primed to act, but the mind can sabotage performance if it is unprepared. A perfectly trained body, when overwhelmed by doubt or fear, can falter at the worst possible moment. Conversely, a well-trained mind can guide an imperfect body to perform with precision beyond its apparent capacity. The mind acts as the governor, filtering impulses, assessing risks, and directing the body with clarity even when the senses scream chaos. Every movement, every decision, Every breath is the result of a dialogue between mind and body, where one informs and moderates the other, and the quality of that dialogue determines success or failure. Training the body involves consistency, repetition, and pushing limits. It is measurable in reps, distance, time, and strength. It is external and often public. You can be timed, judged, and corrected. It is also immediate. Improvements are visible, and setbacks are tangible. But training the mind is abstract and long-term. Its effects often appear only under extreme conditions, when fear is intense, pain is present, or stakes are high. It is internal and private, with no applause or metrics to validate progress. Mental strength is tested in moments when the body is already fatigued and every instinct signals surrender, forcing the mind to take the reins and push beyond the natural limitations of the physical self. Both forms of training are interdependent. Physical capability amplifies mental confidence, while mental resilience allows the body to function at peak levels even under duress. For example, a hand may tremble from exhaustion, but the mind can override that tremor with focus and control. A mind that doubts its own skill can render a perfectly conditioned body useless. Likewise, a body that is weak cannot sustain the mental control necessary to endure pressure. The most effective training integrates both: physical repetition paired with mental rehearsal, endurance drills combined with visualization of stress, physical mastery synchronized with emotional control. The goal is not simply to prepare a body to act, but to create a mind-body partnership capable of functioning seamlessly under pressure, where fear is acknowledged, managed, and channeled rather than avoided. Mental training also involves emotional regulation. Fear is not merely a reaction. It is a complex combination of instinct, anticipation, and judgment. The mind must learn to recognize fear without being dominated by it, to observe panic without surrendering to it, to make decisions in spite of the adrenaline flooding the system. This requires deliberate practice, reflection, and sometimes failure. Experiencing fear in controlled situations, analyzing reactions, and adjusting strategies builds a resilience that becomes automatic when the stakes are real. Mental preparation teaches patience, awareness, and the ability to compartmentalize, skills that physical training alone cannot provide. In the end, the distinction between training the body and training the mind is less a separation than a continuum. One enhances the other, and both are required for mastery. 7 minutes of fear will test both, revealing weaknesses and strengths that were cultivated over months or years. The body can perform only as far as the mind allows, and the mind can succeed only as far as the body can execute. Understanding this interplay, dedicating equal effort to both, and learning to harmonize them is what transforms raw ability into true capability, and transforms the fear of a moment into an opportunity to act with clarity, precision, and resilience. Overcoming doubt and self-imposed limits is one of the most profound battles any person faces when stepping into high-pressure situations. Doubt is subtle at first. It creeps in quietly, disguised as caution, self-reflection, or rational thinking. It whispers questions that seem reasonable on the surface. Am I ready for this? What if I fail? Do I really have what it takes? At first, these questions may feel like helpful reminders, nudging you to prepare more carefully or assess risk. But if left unchecked, they gain weight, growing louder with every heartbeat, every breath, every passing second, until they begin to dominate your thoughts and constrict your actions. The line between caution and crippling doubt is thin, and crossing it can turn even the best preparation into hesitation. Self-imposed limits are equally insidious. They often appear as invisible barriers that tell you what is possible for you, what you can endure, or what you are capable of achieving. These limits are not imposed by circumstance or external forces. They are constructed by the mind itself. They are the echo of past failures, the internalized voices of critics, the lingering fear of judgment, and the subtle fear of discomfort. Unlike physical obstacles, which can be measured and addressed, self-imposed limits exist in a gray area of perception. They are built on assumptions, on comparisons, and on fear, often without any factual basis. Yet, they exert tremendous power, shaping decisions and defining the boundaries of effort long before the moment demands action. The process of overcoming doubt begins with recognition. You cannot defeat a force you do not acknowledge. This means paying attention to your thoughts, noticing the inner dialogue that undermines confidence, and identifying the precise moments when hesitation creeps in. It requires honesty and self-awareness, admitting that fear is present, that you feel unsure, and that the voice of doubt is influencing your decisions. It also requires separating the facts from the stories you tell yourself. Just because your mind predicts failure does not mean failure is inevitable. Just because discomfort feels overwhelming does not mean it is insurmountable. Recognition is the first step toward reclaiming control from the mental forces that seek to limit you. Once doubt is acknowledged, it can be confronted. This often involves testing the limits you have set for yourself, deliberately exposing yourself to situations that push you slightly beyond your comfort zone, and proving, repeatedly, that the boundaries you imagined are flexible, not fixed. Every success, no matter how small, chips away at the weight of doubt, builds confidence, and reinforces the idea that you are capable of more than you thought. Failure, too, plays a role. When approached intentionally and reflectively, failure becomes feedback, showing where assumptions were false and providing an opportunity to recalibrate. The act of confronting doubt is a cycle: recognition, action, reflection, and adaptation. Over time, this cycle trains the mind to tolerate uncertainty and embrace challenges rather than shrink from them. Self-imposed limits are often reinforced by the expectations we internalize from others and from ourselves. People measure themselves against standards they believe are required, imagining rules they must follow to be competent, respected, or successful. Breaking through these limits involves questioning assumptions, challenging perceived norms, and redefining what is possible. It is not enough to push physically or technically beyond limits. The mind must expand as well. Visualization, mental rehearsal, and scenario-based practice are critical tools. By repeatedly imagining yourself succeeding in situations that once seemed impossible, you recalibrate the mind's expectations and gradually redefine the boundaries of what you consider achievable. The interplay between doubt and self-imposed limits is particularly evident in moments of high stress. The fear of failure intensifies, and every hesitation feels amplified. At the same time, the mind automatically recalls previous limits, the familiar patterns that have guided decisions in the past. This is when years of preparation, mental training, and practice converge. The ability to act decisively under pressure is often less about talent and more about having repeatedly challenged both doubt and self-imposed limits in controlled situations. By exposing yourself to discomfort and uncertainty over and over, you create a mental resilience that can override instinctual retreat, allowing you to perform even when fear screams for pause. Overcoming doubt also requires trust. Trust in yourself, trust in your preparation, and trust in the process. When self-imposed limits threaten to define the range of your capability, trust becomes the anchor that steadies decision-making. Trust allows you to take action despite uncertainty, to commit fully in the moment, and to move through fear rather than around it. This trust is not blind. It is earned through experience, effort, and reflection. Every hour spent training, every small victory over hesitation, every lesson learned from failure compounds, forming the foundation for confidence that is resilient in the face of doubt. Persistence is the ultimate weapon against doubt and self-imposed limits. It is not about eliminating fear or achieving perfection. It is about consistently taking action, even when the mind protests, even when the outcome is uncertain. It is about proving to yourself repeatedly that the boundaries you imagined are temporary, that fear is not a stop sign but a signal, and that growth occurs when you move forward despite discomfort. With persistence, the voice of doubt loses its power, and self-imposed limits are revealed as illusions that can be shattered through effort, focus, and courage. The lessons fear teaches about resilience and focus are among the most profound and transformative experiences a person can have. Fear is not simply a reaction. It is a teacher, a lens through which the mind and body are tested and refined. The intensity of fear forces a level of awareness that few other experiences can replicate. In its presence, everything extraneous falls away. Noise disappears, distractions vanish, and the mind is stripped to its most essential function: to survive, to act, to process the immediate challenge. This sharpening of focus is both uncomfortable and enlightening. Fear exposes where attention wavers, where preparation is incomplete, and where habits are insufficient. It reveals weaknesses that must be addressed and strengths that might otherwise go unnoticed, and it does so in a way that is immediate and unyielding. Resilience, the ability to endure, adapt, and recover in the face of adversity, is inseparable from the lessons fear provides. When confronted with fear, the body and mind react instinctively, sometimes with panic, sometimes with hesitation. It is in these reactions that resilience is forged. The first instinct may be to retreat, to avoid discomfort, to yield to the natural impulse to protect oneself. Yet resilience develops when those instincts are met with conscious choice. When a person deliberately chooses to breathe through the panic, to act despite trembling, to step forward even when every fiber of the body and mind is screaming to stop, resilience is strengthened. Each encounter with fear becomes a rehearsal for the next, each moment of persistence building a mental and emotional muscle that grows stronger with practice. Fear also teaches patience. The mind, when confronted with intense stress, wants instant solutions, immediate results, and quick relief. Yet fear rarely conforms to such demands. It unfolds in its own rhythm, stretching moments into what feels like eternity, demanding attention, precision, and control. Patience becomes a necessary skill, the ability to tolerate uncertainty and discomfort without surrendering to impulse. Through repeated exposure to fear, the mind learns that immediate reactions are not always optimal and that measured, deliberate responses yield far better results. This patience under pressure translates beyond the fearful moment itself, shaping approaches to challenges in everyday life where endurance, timing, and persistence are equally essential. Focus and resilience are interdependent when it comes to the lessons of fear. Focus without resilience is brittle. A single unexpected twist can shatter concentration. Resilience without focus is aimless. Endurance is wasted without clear direction. Fear creates scenarios where both are tested simultaneously. The heart races, the senses sharpen, and the mind must navigate multiple variables in real time. Attention to detail, situational awareness, and the ability to prioritize actions become crucial. Every movement, every decision, and every breath is a test of concentration, reinforcing the idea that clarity under pressure is not an innate skill, but a learned response. Fear also exposes the mind's tendency to overcomplicate. When the stakes are high, it is easy to become lost in hypothetical outcomes, what-ifs, and imagined catastrophes. The presence of genuine fear forces simplification. The mind must filter the irrelevant, prioritize what is essential, and act decisively. This process of distilling complexity into actionable clarity is a lesson in focus that cannot be replicated in calm or predictable situations. The intensity of fear accelerates learning, compressing lessons that might take months to internalize into mere minutes of experience. Resilience, moreover, is built not only through action but through reflection. After the initial surge of fear has passed, the mind revisits the experience, analyzing what worked, what failed, and how the body and mind responded under pressure. This reflective process strengthens the mental framework necessary for future challenges. The combination of immediate action under fear and subsequent analysis cultivates a deeper understanding of personal limits, tendencies, and capabilities. Over time, this iterative process transforms fear from a paralyzing force into a teacher that informs decision-making, guides preparation, and instills confidence. Fear also teaches humility. It reminds us that despite preparation, skill, and experience, there are always variables beyond control, moments where uncertainty cannot be eliminated. Humility is a necessary component of resilience because it keeps the mind open to learning, adaptable to change, and receptive to new strategies. It prevents complacency, ensuring that each encounter with fear is approached with attentiveness and respect rather than arrogance or overconfidence. Finally, fear strengthens the connection between mind and body. The lessons it provides are not abstract, they are embodied. Physical responses such as increased heart rate, rapid breathing, and heightened alertness are intertwined with mental clarity and emotional regulation. Learning to interpret these signals, to harness them rather than succumb to them, is central to both resilience and focus. Over time, repeated exposure teaches a person to recognize the early signs of panic, redirect energy effectively, and maintain composure under conditions that would otherwise overwhelm the untrained. How one intense experience shapes a lifetime of growth is a phenomenon that often goes unnoticed until long after the moment has passed. The event itself may last only minutes or even seconds, but its imprint on the mind, body, and spirit can last a lifetime. Intense experiences act as accelerators of learning. They compress lessons that might take years to acquire under ordinary circumstances into a concentrated, vivid moment that leaves no room for ambiguity. The fear, the adrenaline, the focus, and the decisions made under pressure create a memory so detailed and powerful that it becomes a reference point for every future challenge. Every movement, every choice, every sensation during that moment is etched into the neural pathways of the brain, serving as a template for resilience, decision-making, and courage in the years to come. The lasting impact begins with self-awareness. In the heat of an intense experience, every strength and weakness is magnified. Physical limits, mental stamina, emotional resilience, all are revealed in ways that are impossible to ignore. This level of awareness is brutally honest. There is no opportunity for self-deception. The mind cannot hide behind excuses, and the body cannot mask its limitations. As a result, the lessons learned are raw and undeniable, shaping the way a person approaches challenges in the future. Understanding one's own capabilities and vulnerabilities creates a foundation for growth because it allows for targeted improvement and strategic preparation. The intense moment becomes a mirror, reflecting back truths that might otherwise remain hidden. Intense experiences also teach adaptability. When confronted with fear, pressure, or unexpected obstacles, there is often no predefined path to success. The situation demands real-time analysis, rapid decision-making, and creative problem-solving. This teaches the mind to respond fluidly, to improvise under pressure, and to trust instincts honed through preparation. Over time, these skills translate into life beyond the immediate event. A person learns that challenges are rarely linear, that outcomes are shaped not just by knowledge and skill, but by flexibility, awareness, and the ability to act decisively in uncertainty. The experience becomes a reference for navigating complexity and ambiguity in any area of life. The intensity of the moment also cultivates confidence. Confidence earned through repetition in ordinary circumstances is fragile. It can crumble under genuine pressure. But confidence forged in a crucible of fear and difficulty is durable. When a person survives and acts effectively during a high-stakes experience, it creates a proof point that resonates throughout their life. The memory of having faced fear head-on, having executed despite trembling, doubt, or uncertainty, becomes a source of courage for future challenges. This confidence is not arrogant, it is grounded in evidence. It is the assurance that if one has endured the most intense pressure, other obstacles, while difficult, are manageable. Another lasting effect is perspective. Experiencing intense fear or pressure forces the mind to confront what is truly important. Trivial concerns fade in significance when measured against life-altering stakes. Decisions that once seemed monumental are reframed, priorities realigned, and appreciation for the present sharpened. The lessons learned extend beyond the technical or physical. They become philosophical, shaping values, choices, and the way a person perceives risk, opportunity, and responsibility. This perspective informs not just how future challenges are approached, but how life itself is lived, fostering patience, empathy, and a deeper understanding of personal limits and potential. Intense experiences also strengthen the ability to recover. Growth is not only about surviving a moment of fear, it is about reflecting, integrating the lessons, and applying them consistently over time. Recovery teaches emotional resilience, allowing a person to process fear, disappointment, or stress without becoming immobilized. The memory of an intense experience becomes a tool for reflection and refinement. Every subsequent challenge can be measured against that benchmark, guiding strategy, mindset, and preparation. The experience creates a framework for learning that is far more durable than any theoretical knowledge or abstract advice. Finally, intense experiences shape identity. They define who a person becomes in relation to fear, challenge, and perseverance. The memory of having faced extreme pressure and emerged intact informs self-concept and belief systems. It transforms a person's understanding of courage, discipline, and capability, often in ways that are subtle but profound. The lessons are embedded in behavior, influencing choices, interactions, and responses long after the immediate event. Over a lifetime, these moments accumulate, each building on the last, constructing a resilience and a wisdom that can only come from lived experience.